Hi, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, I think we're live. I'm here with Hillary.
Well, first of all, as Kenny mentioned, I'm a copywriter and a ghostwriter and brand voice development specialist, and more recently, consultant, copy coach, and teacher. However, what my focus on is right now is helping business owners and entrepreneurs, which are the same thing technically, really find their angle with their work and find out what makes them most excited to do what they do and create what they create. So that's what I've been focusing on with my current rebrand that is in progress, the Statement Piece Framework. But day to day, since 2011, I have been creating, writing websites, ebooks, scripts, sales pages, launch copy, keynote speeches, and basically anything you can throw at me for online business owners. I got my start in the creative and coaching space, and I've kind of worked my way up and now work with a lot of really high-level marketing consultants and movers and shakers in the business development industry. So it's been a fabulous journey, and I'm so excited to be talking to you about it.
One of the things that I love so much about you is this breadth of experience. You know, not everybody in the online world comes to things with the depth of knowledge that you do, and the years that you've logged, and the amount of copy that you've written.
Yeah, well.
It's very, very impressive. And so I actually recently worked with Hillary on my own website copy. So we're both going through a rebrand at the moment. And one of the things I want to chat to you guys about today and chat about with Hillary is that process of rebranding and the process of writing web copy and why it's so important. So Hillary, do you want to chat to us about the different ways that you knew you needed to rebrand?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think, and you and I were just talking about this, what's so important in the online business world is that we have to kind of acknowledge that we're always evolving. We have to be willing to pay attention when we've grown too big for our britches, and when where we're standing, there's just not enough space to become who we want to be. And I know in my case, I wanted to move a little less from exclusively done for you copywriting, although I still love it. That's my bread and butter, but I've been cheating on it with coaching. But I also wanted to step into more of a teacher, authority, coach kind of space. Mm-hmm. So with my rebrand, the Statement Piece Studio, I really wanted to create an umbrella for all of those overall kind of ideas and give myself space to grow. And I'm actually moving from HillaryWeiss.com, which is my current website, and that whole brand is under my name, and I'll still keep it, I think. But it actually feels much more expansive at this stage in my business to move into a umbrella of a name, something that can eventually become larger than myself and kind of grow beyond me. Mm-hmm. So that's been something really exciting for me because I've been in this business for 7 years, and I've seen a lot and done a lot. And what was interesting for me was I kind of reached a stage in my business when I launched my course last year where I looked around and I thought, like, what kind of business do I really want to have? Like, do I want to have a business where I work with clients, then I create a program, and then I have a mastermind, and then I've got 6 layers between me and my day-to-day kind of clients and customers and viewers and readers? And what I really decided was that I wanted to stay close. And so having this Statement Piece Studio gives me an opportunity to stay close to my audience by teaching at a higher level and sharing the things that I want to do at a higher level without kind of losing that intimate touch, which sounds so wrong.
An
intimate touch, join my mailing list.
It reminds me of that thing that people say online that you have to touch someone 5 times before they buy from you.
Yes.
And I always thought that sounded creepy.
Yeah. Ready? Are you ready now?
I've already bought something from you.
Yeah, you have. Let's do it. I'll stop poking you.
Stop touching me.
But no, it was because I kind of looked around, to be totally honest. Like, I was looking at my clients, and I was like, I don't know if I want to have a business like this, where I'm like launching every 6 months and like spending. I wrote this Facebook post once that was like, I can't wait to become a successful entrepreneur so I can spend $40,000 on Facebook ads. Said no one ever. That's still awesome. You guys do what you got to do. Like, hustle. If that's your goal, that's amazing. But for me, I was realizing that I wanted to step more into an authority space, an authority that still kept kind of like direct contact with the people that I am interested in helping and supporting, which is why, like, when you sign up for my framework and stuff, there's an invitation to reply and tell me what kind of business you're in, and I try to answer every email and really just like stay connected, because the pattern is in the entrepreneurial space, as I mentioned, is that people tend to grow so they can be out here and their people can be here. So I'm just trying to figure out kind of what that looks like for me for now.
Right, like what it looks like to scale a high-touch, one-on-one service-based business.
Absolutely.
While still keeping that high-touch.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think it was so interesting because I was talking about, I'm still a big believer in funnels. I was actually talking to a colleague about this last week because I was like, I was talking about funnels, and he was like, I feel like that's kind of cheating. And I was like, I was like, no, I don't know if that's cheating. And I was like, well, it's just a great way to scale, and you can still keep, work hard on maintaining that kind of interpersonal communication through a funnel, and make people realize there's a human on the other end. And he was like, well, that's not the only way to scale. I was like, okay, like, what other ways would you scale? And he was like, well, you could teach one person, and then you could just gradually teach larger and larger groups of people.
Which you could.
But that's not technically like scaling too, because then you're still having to show up and like put that energy in. So right now I'm figuring out where the balance is. Because even when something is automated and it's like a DIY program in my little corner of the universe, I still want people to feel like I'm there and I'm present, because that, I don't want there to be a huge separation between them and not my magic, but something like it.
No, totally agree. And it's one of the reasons that I reached out to you initially, is because I always got that sense from your emails and from the content that you put out there that you were plugged into what was going on in the online world. You're very plugged into the trends in the industry and have a distinct point of view on those trends, and which I want to get into in a little bit. I really do, because one of the things you help people do so brilliantly is develop a point of view, to stand out, to step up. But also that personal touch, the fact that I felt like you were a human on the other end. And then when we worked together, you were very, very much a human on the other end.
Superhuman.
Superhuman. So present for me, showed up every step of our project, and even beyond our project. Don't tell anybody I told you this, but one of the things we did today before going live is Hillary looked over some of the copy she'd written for me to make sure things were sitting right on my website, which is above and beyond the call of duty.
It looks amazing. I can't wait for you guys to see this, by the way. It's like out of control gorgeous. I mean, that's to be expected, right?
Well, so one of the reasons I wanted to rebrand is I sort of felt like when I first moved to New York, I was working this really stressful job and not taking care of myself and not paying attention. And I woke up one morning and I was like, I can't button my pants. I gained 20 pounds. And
relatable.
Yeah, and I'm 5'3", so 20 pounds is a lot. And it happened overnight. I was like, there must have been markers along the way, but I don't know what they were. And suddenly this change has happened. And I felt that way about my brand earlier this year in my business, which I'm sure you can relate to. I woke up one day and I thought, this doesn't fit anymore.
Yeah.
It doesn't, it's not quite right. My offerings have changed. My audience has changed. Things have grown. I want to grow. And I really knew I needed to step up and fill a bigger space. And so I sat down and started to try to DIY my web copy. You guys, I'm a designer. I'm not a copywriter. And I just realized I was so close to all of my own story and my own offerings that I couldn't do it. And so I reached out to you for help.
And it was awesome. And then magic happened. But we were also talking about this point, I think, because your instinct is to DIY initially when you've got a new idea. But I think, as we were discussing before we started recording, I think it is to a point necessary to DIY when you're starting out as well. Like there is a time and a place to do stuff yourself, to write your own web copy, to design your own site, or try to.
Mm-hmm.
I never tried. It was just a disaster. I'm not a designer. But I think when you are ready for that next level and you're ready to, again, like work at an incredibly high level with clients in the way you do, and like continue to start magnetizing those, the people worthy of your skill set and your talents, and kind of take your brand to a bigger scale, and also in a way that you're not going to have to touch it for like 5 years.
Totally. Like one of the many things that prompted me to reach out to get professional copy was I felt like I was having to do quite a lot of selling on sales calls. My website was not doing as much selling for me as I wanted to. And so I was having to have pretty long sales conversations, whereas I much prefer to have a prospective client show up to a sales call. We have a casual chat to see if we're a good match energetically, and then it's a yes or a no.
Yep.
But being in that energy of sort of selling and pushing on a call where your website could be doing that for you, I really wanted to shift that.
Yeah, and I think that's so important, and that's really what happens when you're ready to get to that next level, right? You can't throw tens of thousands of dollars at a website on day one because you don't know who you are yet.
And you shouldn't. You
really shouldn't. Don't do that.
Take
it from two people who charge a lot of money. Don't do that. There's no need. We can help and we can make you sound good, but it's about taking that step to make that kind of investment. You have to know who you are, who you work with, and the kind of work you want to do, because when you do a rebrand and you hire help and you invest the cash, you're not going to want to touch that thing, you know?
Yeah, and I think this is a really good point. It's not about having all of the answers, but it's about having clarity around those foundational pieces. Who you are, who are you, what do you do, who do you do it for, how do they buy it from you? You don't have to know everything, but those things are really, really key.
Absolutely, and I think your point about having to sell on sales calls, that really is like the ultimate purpose of a rebrand, is to tell people who you are, what you do for who, how, and why, so that when they get on the call, it's basically, where do I sign? Like, what, how are you, and where? Like, tell me more, a little more about you. Just like, people want to get a vibe. They're going to be committed to working with you for several weeks, but you want them already ready to sign on the dotted line. You don't have to explain.
Which kind of sounds sometimes like the golden unicorn of online business. But it really, really isn't. Like, I went through this process with you. I've been on your email list for a while. I've read some of your blog posts. I've been in contact with you through your online presence. And although we didn't know each other personally yet, when I got on that call, you know, we had a good connection and I really enjoyed chatting, and I just knew that you were going to be the person to help me out. And it was a very easy, quick yes from me.
Yeah.
In a way that it might not have been if I hadn't had those points of contact with you beforehand.
All 5 points. But no, it's absolutely true. And I think this is also what I teach when it comes to people writing blog posts and creating social posts and being visible and showing up on social and as a self-promotional brand online. And it's interesting because I find people kind of get into the same mode when they're ready to rebrand or ready to level up. They're like, okay, today I will be a personal brand. And so they decide to step forward and they schedule a bunch of posts on Buffer, and they're very robotic. They think about things they need to talk about, and there's not a lot of excitement behind it. They're just trying to build that authority. When in reality, how you should be showing up in the online space is exactly who you are, talking about the things you talk about in real life. Like, for example, things you talk about in real life, things you talk to clients about, things that you're experiencing every day in your business is worth talking about. Like, on my blog, you will probably not see 10 ways to optimize your sales page to convert better. It's not how I roll, but mostly because so many people so much smarter than me have already written that.
Right, it's also not what your clients are looking for.
Exactly.
I didn't come to you because I wanted DIY tips on my sales page. I came to you because I wanted you to write my sales page.
Exactly. And I think you embodying the values of what you want to create for your clients is so important. I think that's also what you've done such a wonderful job of with your rebrand as well, is that you have created this beautiful high-end rebrand. You have created this gorgeous website. The copy is solid, if I do say so myself.
It's very good.
But there is a sense of trust between you and your audience when somebody lands on that kind of page and sees that kind of high-end work. So not only have you already selling them, but you're kind of building that bond that this is you coming through, that this is your work, this is what you love to do, and this is what you want to help clients create for themselves. So that's something I try to embody kind of in the things I share and do, and even if it's a little unconventional.
So I want to go back to something that you touched on, which is showing up as yourself. So let's talk more about what that actually means and how do you actually do it? How do you develop a point of view that's different from the thousands of others out there on the internet? How do you stand out even if you sell the same stuff as everybody else?
Absolutely. Now, I wish I had a secret formula to tell you. I wish it was A plus B equals C. It is not. But what it comes down to, I think, is figuring out where you start to figure out your point of view and kind of personal philosophy and perspective as a business owner comes down to that point of showing up. Like talking about things that are kind of lighting your fire that day. Like, did something piss you off? Did something get you excited? Is there something you're sick of seeing? Is there something you want to see more of? Talk about that. And it's often the kind of sillier stuff and the slightly more polarizing stuff that gets the most attention. So I think not being afraid to come out and be like, listen, I know something I need to talk about today, is so important. But again, it's about that ability to show up, that ability to strike when the iron is hot, that ability to not necessarily feel like you have to schedule every last thing if you want to show up as a brand. Not having to talk about business all the time is also not necessary, because we are we're a universe of personal brands now. Even if you're not the face of your business technically, people still want to know the founder. They want to know who you are. They want to know what your deal is. And human beings crave that connection in the digital age. I think we're not robots in which strategy finds command and money comes out. Although some people, I think, would argue that it's not the case.
Not in my business.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's where I'm trying to train people right now, is learning to turn the process of showing up and creating content in the online space that's in line with your brand, your values, and kind of what you want to see in the world. Not making it a huge deal. Like,
oh my God, it is so refreshing.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think feels like so much gravity when you decide to show up as a personal brand, but the reality is you are building your brand as you show up. You know, there's no like wake up in the morning, have a brand, now I have a brand. Like it is, you're constantly building that mythos, you're constantly building that voice, that perspective, that point of view. But what you have to do is find a way to show up every day. Even if you're just posting stupid memes on your Facebook page. For me, the secret's been like picking one platform and just showing up every day on there, having conversations, like talking to people, making connections, offering help where I can. And in my case, that's Facebook. I also fiddle around on Twitter and Instagram. But it's been just keeping it really simple and picking one platform. Show up every day, whether a blog post, whether it's a one-liner Facebook post, whether it's a joke or a meme. All of it always ties into my brand values, which is always about positivity, you know, mutual support and teaching, and honesty and transparency. Like those are the three kind of big pillars for me. So, and it's easy for me to show every day, not because I woke up and I was like, these are my pillars. I looked at what I already had and what I was already talking about, and I was like, okay, this is what makes me feel good to write. This is what makes sense to me to share, and it doesn't feel like a chore when I wake up like, oh shit, I gotta like post on Facebook today, like drink my coffee, rub one eye, it's fun. And keep it simple, keep it low pressure, and know that it's about the process of building rather than the process of arriving that you should be striving for. It's gonna feel a lot better when you start to try to build that authority in that platform.
Yeah, this has been huge for me as well. The idea of just keeping it simple and not scheduling everything. I think that there's a lot of stuff out there about like sexy automations and scheduling tools and workflows and how you can like streamline and optimize and whatever. But what I found in my business is that I tried to do it too early, to be perfectly honest. I spent hours and hours and hours building out fancy funnels and fancy workflows for things that changed a month later, for offerings that changed a month later.
Yes.
And it sucked. It was hard. It took a lot of time. It took me away from the stuff I love to do, which is this one-on-one personal connection. And so I took a step back and really have been thinking a lot about how we can keep things simple, keep things personal, and how you can put that human touch back into the online world.
Definitely.
So you had, when we first started working together, you asked me some really, really smart questions to help me get clear on how I wanted to show up and what my point of view was. Because I think that process feels a little mysterious, but you have some very just down-to-earth questions that you ask your clients. Do you mind sharing a couple of those?
Of course. Which ones did you like most? Was it the ones that were in the framework, or was that
I think you had one about what drives me nuts in my industry.
That's a great one. And it's interesting, like when in my statement piece framework, so generally, and this is something that I was actually testing on client at the time, there are, in my little idea generation framework, the statement piece framework, there are 3 scenarios. And in each scenario, you can be anti or advocate. So anti means you're like, fuck that, no more of this. And advocate is like, I want all of this in my life all the time. So the 3 scenarios are, conversations you have with clients. So what drives you totally nuts when a client sits down and are like, I want my website to look exactly like Marie Forleo. It's not purple. Like that would probably, annoy you.
Yeah. Can I have copy that's exactly like Ash Ambridge's, but just with no swearing?
Yeah. Oh, if I had a nickel, y'all. And I think that's we'll get back to that actually. I could go off on a million tangents about trying to be a diet Ashley Ambridge or being a diet Marie Forleo.
Yeah, let's get back to that.
We'll get back to kind of table that.
Yep.
And I think the second scenario is in conversations with your business besties. And these are ways to kind of mine your point of view and personal philosophy. So the second scenario is in conversations with your business besties, what are you like, oh, fuck this, I'm so tired of seeing this in the industry. Like if one more person tries to make me an affiliate for this fucking program, I'm gonna throw myself off no, just not that serious. But, and then on the other hand, what makes you so excited? What do you nerd out about with your colleagues and business friends? What makes you really stoked? Just like what we were talking about earlier with the rebrand, like we've been talking about this idea of going where the energy is. And I've been talking about that a fair bit, and Cami as well, and the rebrand as well. This is really a guiding principle that we're creating. And the final scenario is, what are conversations that you have with yourself? When you read a blog post or see something that you've seen a million times or that you're sick of or really excited about, what is that thing? Like, when do you notice it? How does it make you feel? And what do you want to do about it? So those have been kind of the ways that I'm helping clients think around the big idea, because traditionally, I don't know if you've noticed this, but in marketing, we're always like, okay, who's your audience? What's the problem you solve? What do they need? And that should be simple. It's not. You get people sitting there like, I don't know who my audience is, because they're just at square one. And this is actually something that I'm working on kind of reconciling in my own work, where it's also, people make their audience the CEO when their audience should be their advisor. Because it's sort of like, I think it's an instinct of an entrepreneur to be like, okay, I have an audience who needs what I have. Why don't I just ask them what they want? And historically in my business, when I've asked them, the responses I've gotten have been like nothing or something that I've already made. But it's so much better to know who your audience is and what they need, but trust yourself as an expert to create something that they don't know they need yet and give it to them, like the space.
Right. Well, what's that, I think it's Henry Ford who said that if he'd given people what they wanted, he would have invented a faster horse instead of building Ford motors.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's true. Your audience is a huge part of your business, and it's been a huge part of mine, but it's something that evolves over time. I think the idea of an audience plural can be very intimidating when you're starting out.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's one person at a time, especially when you're working with clients. You don't need 100,000 clients a year. You need maybe 12 good ones. So who's your client right now? Who's your next client? Who's the next? That's your audience, and it's allowed to change and evolve. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be so complicated.
And you're allowed to talk about what you want to talk about too, to start attracting the right audience and see who starts coming in. That's the other thing as well. I think people are like, okay, so I write for 35-something women with a French bulldog, and she lives in Soho, and she has a vacation house in Rhode Island. Okay, and she needs help with copywriting. What do I say? And then you're gonna freeze.
Well, because you don't know that person. It's somebody who's pulled out of the top of your head.
Exactly.
When my very first few months in business, I was designing websites for actors and artists, because it's a lot of my personal network here in New York, and it was a really great place to start. But I went through one of these ideal client exercises where they have you make up like a Franken audience number. And I remember I read it back the other day, and it was like, actor, artist, who is exactly like this one person I know, except for they make $300,000 a year, and they have this much to spend on a website, and blah, blah, blah. And I looked at this thing, and I thought, that person doesn't exist.
There's 5 of them in the world.
Yeah, and I don't know them, and this wasn't a genuine connection. And so when I stepped back from that and really started focusing on one person at a time and the real people in front of me, that's when the needle started to move.
Absolutely. And just to, I think, kind of wrap this up too, just tie it up with a beautiful bonus concept, because I know you and I have been going back and forth on this, and we're a little bit, I'm a marketing heretic personally, but I think this idea, thank you. I think this idea, I would like people to start thinking about marketing in the sense of, what their expertise, where their energy is first, and then who the audience will be to inform that. Like, test the ideas first, get proof of concept before leading with everything you think this invisible audience member who you haven't met yet and don't know exists happens. I think a lot will change when you focus on, okay, what am I excited to do with my work and expertise? And then how do I start talking about that in a way that's going to attract people to my audience? Like, you can have to my world. You can have an idea of who your audience is, but being so set on it being this like made up person, I think does a lot of disservice in a way to marketers and people, especially people who are newbies, because it paralyzes them. So that's why I always try to start with like, what's your ideas? What are your point of view? What are you working on? What's exciting you? Where's the energy going? What are you sick of? What do you want to see more of? Like, that to me is so much more valuable in identifying a brand than starting with, who do you serve? Especially if you don't know yet.
Well, this is like the best segue ever. Because I want to segue into talking about web copy and talking about, how if you are rebranding your website, thinking about writing web copy, starting to think about these things, what's your point of view, but you find that you're just sort of regurgitating things that you love and you're doing it, but you can't help yourself, what's the cure?
What do you mean?
So if you find yourself writing an about page, for example, about how heart-centered you are, that sounds very familiar to all of us.
Aren't we all so heart-centered?
What is the
There's a heart in the middle of all of us. But no, so you wanted to know sort of how do you avoid talking too much about yourself?
How do you avoid the diet syndrome where you end up sounding unintentionally and often very sincerely, but you sound unintentionally like a light version of somebody you admire on the internet?
Absolutely. And I think the process of branding is a lot like being in high school. Like you try on a lot of different hats and a lot of different identities before you land on who you really are. So that's part of the process. But I think when you find yourself in that space of trying to be like a heart-centered entrepreneur, trying to help people live their best life, just take a look.
Perhaps build a business life.
Exactly. Perhaps do that.
Which is a genius tagline, but it is not your tagline.
It's not your tagline.
It's not.
But no, for me, the cure for that, and I do this a lot with my students, is to think in more specific terms. So I have clients who are like, I help people meditate to live their best life and release old stories. I'm like, okay. And the key phrase here, guys, is what does that mean really? So for me, when I was writing my sales page for the course, The Workshops, I was looking at all these different copy courses pages, and I was like, okay, everyone's saying write copy that converts, write copy that converts, write copy that converts. I should have that in my page. Okay, everyone's saying it. That's the thing. I should do that. All right. And then I sat there. I was like, oh, wait, fuck. No. That's not what this is about. That's not who I am. This is not what people are coming to me for. So I was like, okay, web copy that converts. Like, what does that mean to me? What does that mean really? What does that mean to the type of people I want to work with? Like, what is the most important to them? And this is, again, using your audience as an advisor.
Well, yeah.
Rather than
to make this concrete.
Yeah.
In my terms, I didn't ask you for web copy that converts. I asked you for copy that sounded like me, that would help me spend a half an hour on sales calls instead of an hour.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the workshops at the crux is not necessarily copy that converts, because there are a million ways to learn that. What I'm teaching and continuing to teach, I hope, is creative confidence. Not just, in your branding, in how you show up in the online space, and in helping you identify who you are so that you can then create, knowing who you are, what you're interested in, where the energy is. So you can then create offerings and services, and in your case, a beautiful website that's going to make you an instant yes for the people that you really want to work with and attract. So that's sort of the vibe.
Yeah, I love this idea. We've been talking about it a lot, this idea that you can use your online presence, use your copy, use your website to attract people rather than like pushing stuff on them all the time. You can just magnetize your clients and your audience just by being who you naturally are.
And better yet, you can also repel the people that you don't want to work with.
Yes, let's talk about that. So why would I want to repel clients, and how do I repel clients?
Well, how do you specifically repel clients? Price point, no. So this is actually something that one of my dear friends and a wonderful marketing expert, Jen Kem, talks about, is that all of the best brands attract and repel. So in my case, if you are coming to my website looking for 10 secrets to make your sales page convert better, you're not going to find that. There are a million other brilliant copywriting websites that you can find, but there are other filters that I kind of plug into my work. So, for example, I speak pretty colloquially. My grammar is not perfect. In fact, it's kind of atrocious at this stage in my career. But I write about things I care about. I swear, the way I'm dressed, the way my hair is done, the way I show up online, the jokes I make, the humor I use. If somebody doesn't jive with that, I don't necessarily want to be attracting entrepreneurs who may have a lot of money but are, very conservative and don't want to experiment, don't want to try anything else, just want really precise, like in the box, looks like everyone else in their industry so people will take them seriously. From me. I'm concerned, I think you can look professional but also differentiate yourself. Like, I want to make you look professional and unforgettable, because that unforgettable piece is what's going to attract clients to you or again, repel clients. You just want to I want to be repelling people who can't necessarily afford me. I want to be, but they can work with me in other ways. I want to be repelling people who don't value copywriting or originality in the online space. I want to repel people who think they can go on ClickFunnels and plug in a formula and make $1 million. Like, I'm not interested in those people. I'm interested in a very small, well, not very small, but a relatively small group of people who, first of all, are interested in marketing heresy and are interested in defining their own point of view, defining their own niche and sort of place in their industry, and who aren't afraid to show up as they are.
Yes, I absolutely love that. And I had such a great question A question that like has leaked out of my brain just now.
That is okay.
God, what was I gonna ask you?
I don't know.
I totally can't remember.
What did we table earlier? I forget that too.
I got it. So from my perspective,
Yes.
design and copy are so linked.
Yeah.
You know, you can have all the great web design and the most beautiful fonts and graphics and images, but if the content isn't there, it falls flat on its face.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like your web design is how you get somebody's attention initially, but what you say to them afterwards really matters. And if it's gibberish, or if it's bland, or if it's generic, or if they've heard it before, off they trot.
Mm-hmm.
Conversely, you can have the best copy in the world, but if it's in, you know, a big long Google Doc, it's not that interesting.
Yeah.
You're not going to get people's attention. So these two things for me have a ton of synergy,
Yeah.
and you can't have one without the other. So for you, why? Sorry,
That's okay.
I
You
just
can play footsie. Yeah,
kicked
don't
her
mind.
under the table.
Play footsie with me, guys.
But for you, why should somebody invest in professional copy?
Oh God, the reasons are long and many. But we discussed at the beginning of this conversation, like if you're just starting out, I would encourage people to DIY just so you can learn how the sausage is made. Like, how do you find your unique selling prop? How do you figure out what your point of view is? How do you figure out, how do you like write a sales page to know how to have a sales conversation? All of that is important. But for me, what I do as a copywriter, and what I think all the best copywriters do, is they don't just create copy that converts, because that's like our whole job. That's like the bare minimum.
It should. It really should.
It really should do that. It's nothing really new, or anyway.
That's the whole point of copywriting.
It's the hot phrase. Okay, be like, copy that converts. I just want to be like, copy that
Does its job.
Anyway, but so I think the right time to hire a copywriter is, again, when you have this clear vision, but it's not your realm of genius.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think just like with design, like I throw lots of money at tens of thousands of dollars at designers because it's not my zone of genius, and I know I would much rather hand my vision to somebody who knows how to bring it to life than try to bring it to life myself and have it be kind of like a sad jalopy of the concept I was envisioning. A great copywriter will help you differentiate yourself in the space, articulate your value clearly, and most importantly, really bring your voice to the page so that people can experience you directly, whether they across sort of time, space, and screens of all sizes. And I think that has been the biggest point for me, and what we were always discussing and what we were always so focused on is like, what are you bringing to the table? What is it about your work and your process and the way you do things and your realm of expertise and your depth of knowledge? How do you bring that to your clients? How does that change the game for them? And I think that working with you to help you articulate that has been such a joy. It is the best part of my job, guys, doing this stuff. 100%.
So great, because I think one of the big struggles I was having was I was just so close to everything. So if you'd asked me those questions before we worked together, I would have sat there and been like, nothing. I'm not that special. I have no idea, because you're so in it all day, every day. It's really difficult to see your own gifts as other people see them. And this is partly why I love having clients, because they will tell you what those gifts are and you'll realize it over time and be able to draw that out. But it's one of the things that I loved most about working with you was that we had a lot of conversations. So the process was that we would have Zoom conversations or phone calls. Hillary would record them, transcribe them, and then pull out keywords and phrases. So I wasn't having to come up with anything. I was just really naturally showing up, and we were chatting like friends.
Mm-hmm.
And through that process, you were able to draw those things out, and also as an outsider, spot the things that I'd been missing, and really piece things together in like a super authentic way, but that just elevates everything.
Well, thank you. She's the best. And that's, I think, also what you do so well as a designer. It's like somebody comes to you with a desire and a vision, and the best professionals create things that are better than your wildest vision. Better than your wildest dreams, like being able to take these abstract concepts, and this is you as a designer, again, because concepts are less abstract for a copywriter, but take these abstract concepts and these ideas and these colors and fonts and this vibe that you want to kind of embody and give it a home. And that is huge. And again, that is why people need to pay top dollar for design. That's why they need to pay top dollar for copy, because when somebody is able to plug into who you are, what you do, who you serve, and what makes you different, and create like a digital sanctuary, a digital home, a digital a digital wing, which is where we are right now.
Yeah.
You want people you can trust to take care of that and make that for you. And when you're ready to level up and serve at a higher level, and also create a website you're not going to have to go back and change in a year. You have to make the investment.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think this is a really, really great place to wrap up. I'll ask you one last question, which is, where can we find you on the internet, Hillary?
Oh, geez. Well, now you ask. No, you can find me on my website at HillaryWeiss.com, HILLARYWEISS. The URL may be changing soon. The rebrand is in progress. You can grab my framework at www.HillaryWeiss.com/statement piece framework.
The framework's really good. I downloaded it after we worked together, and I've used it to develop ideas for social posts, for blog posts. It'll walk you through some of the things we talked about today if you're interested in learning more. So highly recommend.
And then you can find me on Facebook at my name, and you can find me on Twitter at HCWeiss and on Instagram at HCWeiss. So come say hi, guys. I'd love to hang out.
Yes, indeed. All right. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It was really fun.
Thanks for watching, guys.
All right. Talk to you soon.